Hi everyone, you're watching Queer as Cat and I'm Nystar. In a previous video, my second video actually titled The Road to Asexuality, I talked about how I came to identify as asexual, but I started that story at 17, and yeah, I didn't at all talk about how I even got to the point of looking into the term asexual at 17. So this video is going to be about my childhood leading up to looking into asexuality. Before I get started, I want to put a huge disclaimer that this video is just about my childhood. I don't mean for this to in any way suggest that, my childhood is at all typical of an asexual childhood or anything like that. I'm just talking about how I felt, what I experienced growing up, because really that's all I can talk about. And one more little note that I'd like to make is that this video might be a bit choppy, because for me it's hard to reflect back on my childhood and extract the things that pertain to me being asexual and nothing else. I mean, a lot of stuff was going on during my childhood, obviously, so to just slice out those parts that pertain to this topic is kind of hard. And on top of that, when growing up, I kind of tried to ignore sexuality in general, and so that kind of affects my memories of things. I was trying to focus on other things at the time. That said, where to start? I guess I should start by saying that I think my childhood was pretty normal. I mean, yeah, as normal as anyone else's childhood would be. My first encounter with sex ed or anything sex related was in the 5th grade in elementary school, so I was 9 or 10, I think, in the 5th grade. So in the 5th grade they had this sex ed which just consisted of separating the boys and the girls into separate rooms and playing a video, and then sending them home with a bag of crap like condoms and tampons and stuff. It was stupid. I mean, it's still my opinion that the 5th grade is a bit young to be doing that, but whatever. So yeah, I wasn't at all interested in the video that was being shown. In fact, I thought it was kind of disgusting, and I completely disconnected myself from it. That's what I usually do when something like a class doesn't interest me. My thoughts will just go elsewhere, and yeah, I won't pay attention. So that's kind of what happened with this. I mean, I doubt I'm the only one, being a 9 or 10-year-old, I doubt I was the only one that was disgusted by some of the stuff in the video. That was probably pretty typical. But I vaguely remember, I don't know, in general, the other girls being more interested, even if disgusted at the same time, more interested, and I was just like, I don't know, there was a complete denial that, at some point of my life, blood would start gushing from between my legs. I just didn't, there was a complete disconnect with that, and it was nasty, and yeah. So that sex ed didn't particularly do much for me. So eventually I became, I went on to middle school, and middle school was interesting. In middle school, everyone started acting differently, and these garbage can-like things started appearing in all of the bathroom stalls. I should note that throughout my school life, I've always been kind of a loner. But I'd go even further to say that I was the kid that had to worry about being left behind on a field trip, because if it wasn't for the teacher doing a head count, the teacher would even forget that I was there. I was just like the invisible kid that, barely existed. So during school, I didn't really participate in stuff. I was more the observer. So I observed as my peers started acting all weird, as they started going gaga over the opposite sex, or flirting, or going out of their way to look a certain way. And all of this, it just felt really strange. It felt like people were being stupid. To me, it felt like the way that people were acting was stupid and strange, and I completely couldn't understand it at all. Like, when the girls would try and, modify their PE uniforms because they knew that the guys would be on the tennis courts next door, I thought that was just, the latest trend, the latest fad, that everyone was just a part of this trend, like gigapets, or like slap bracelets, or light up sneakers. It was just another fad that everyone was going through, and I just happened to not be a part of. So yeah, in middle school, that's pretty much how I dealt with things. Everyone else was being strange and stupid, and I was the normal one. I was the one who hadn't changed since elementary school. Everyone else had changed. I had stayed the same. I was normal. That's kind of how I dealt with it then. At some point in middle school, there was a semester of health education. And within that semester, there was a small section on sexual reproduction. So this time, unlike in elementary school, they didn't separate, the girls and the guys into separate rooms. We were all there in the same class, and the information that was presented was very textbooky, with diagrams and illustrations and fancy terms and crap. So again, I wasn't interested in health education at all, really. And the sexual reproduction part, it was not at all interesting. Again, I kind of disconnected. When the girls were all giggling and stuff over, a diagram of male genitalia and stuff, I just thought it was nasty. Or when it was explained that, this and this happens, and that's how a baby's born, that's how a baby is made, everyone was like, woo. And I was just like, not interested, disgusting, whatever, I don't care. And yeah, actually, when it comes to, babies and, how biological females can bear children, I thought that was interesting, but sex, that was a foreign concept. Genitalia, why do I need to know about that? That's how I felt. And yeah, so middle school ended with me thinking that everyone else was being weird or following a trend, and I was just normal. Eventually, I turned 14 and went to high school. And yeah, things became even more complicated. Now that I was in high school, the changes that I had noticed in, my peers' behavior and stuff were still present, except they were even more so now. And it wasn't just that everyone else was acting a certain way. I also noticed that, adults expected this kind of thing from, people my age. It was considered, the norm. No longer could I think that the way people were acting was strange, because it was obvious to me from the way that, certain situations in high school were handled by the teachers, by the adults, by society in general, it was obvious to me that, that was normal. That was considered normal. And now in high school, it wasn't just, the way people acted. There were also physical changes that were coming about. And yeah. So no longer could I, put it off to me being the normal one and everyone else being strange. It was now apparent that I was the strange one and everyone else was normal. And so dealing with that was, not so easy. I was the strange one for not giving a damn about the opposite sex. I was the strange one for not even understanding what my peers were talking about a lot of the time. I was completely oblivious to a lot of things. I was the strange one for having non-existent breasts. I was the strange one for still wearing a training bra in the locker room when everyone else had lacy crap. I had a training bra, and even that training bra didn't fit. I was the strange one for not needing a tampon or a pad, and in fact, at that point, I still didn't even completely understand what those things were for. I just knew that all the other girls needed these things and I still didn't. There wasn't any blood gushing from between my legs, and that was strange. I was the one being strange for having to go on the internet and look up what masturbation and getting off meant, because everyone else was completely familiar with these terms or these concepts, and I had to look it up on Google or Wikipedia. And when I did look it up, it was just oh, that's odd. Why would you do that? So yeah, I was the strange one, and it sucked. Eventually, I started wishing every single night that my period would start, that I would go through puberty, because I made this link that somehow, me being late with puberty had to be the explanation for, my total lack of sexuality. I mean, I don't even like that term, lack of sexuality, because I think asexual is my sexuality. But anyways, I felt that I was lacking something that everyone else had. And so I thought that going through puberty would fix that. That going through puberty would make me normal. Because I really did want to be normal. I hated being so seemingly in the dark about everything. And yeah, other people, I've heard lots of people describe this feeling that I was definitely feeling back then. They described it as feeling broken. I wouldn't use the word broken. I didn't feel like I was broken so much as a fluke of nature, maybe. A fluke of nature is probably the best way to describe how I felt. I felt like I was an anomaly. And that really sucked. So, eventually when I came to terms with, me being the one who was different, me being the oddball, that's when I, got on the internet and started looking, because I thought, surely I'm not the only one dealing with this. I mean, I hoped that I wasn't the only one dealing with this. I wanted to know that this thing that I was dealing with wasn't just me, that there were others out there like me, that it wasn't just all in my head, that I wasn't experiencing some kind of, anomaly of nature. And so I searched and searched, and I didn't have the word asexual back then. This is 2003. I skipped ahead actually. I finally got my period at 17, so 2002, 2003. I got my period, I started growing breasts, I got blood gushing out from between my legs. And sorry if that's too graphic. But yeah, I got my period and it was the worst thing ever. Holy shit, oh my god. Why was I wishing this upon myself? I cursed it. I mean, up until this point, I wished for it and I wished for it and then I got it and it was just like, I didn't even want to go to school. It was that crappy. But yeah, I got my period and nothing changed. I still didn't experience the things that my peers did. I still didn't experience anything sexual towards anything. And that's when I started looking into, finding others like me. Because, before that I thought that, puberty had to be the key. And puberty came, puberty went, that didn't happen. That wasn't the key. Nothing changed. So that's when I started looking into things online. And back then, 2003, there wasn't... If you searched... When I searched, I didn't immediately come upon the term asexual. It wasn't anything like it is today, where I think people come upon that term much more readily. Back then, the term asexual, if you happen to find it and search for it, you'd mostly get like biology and zoology and stuff like that. Stuff related to things that had nothing to do with human sexuality or human, orientation. So eventually, I don't know how, but eventually I did come across this term on like one blog. On one blog, somebody used the term asexual to describe themselves, to describe something that sounds similar, but not exactly like, but similar to what I was going through. That's how I came across the word asexual, in a blog where someone just happened to use it to describe themselves. There wasn't any AVEN, there wasn't any Wikipedia article on asexual that included anything pertaining to humans. I just found it in a blog. I think it was a blog. And yeah, from there, you should watch my other video, my second video, The Road to Asexuality, because my story picks up from there. And I don't want to repeat all that. This video is already really long. But yeah, again, that's just a sliver, a little tiny glimpse into my childhood. Obviously, my childhood was a lot more complex and long than that. But yeah, that's it, I guess. Check out my other video and see you later. Thanks for watching.